What's up, Mitch?
What's up, Chris? How you doing?
Dude, thanks for doing this, man.
Absolutely.
No, seriously, like that was I mean, I guess we had the pain in the ass of getting the financial district with all the things that entails. But dude, this is so fucking awesome to be here, and thanks for guinea pigging the live.
My
aspect.
pleasure. It's my pleasure.
I mean, it's not just the camera. It's also you got Jay here taking pictures and stuff. Like we've got a whole bunch of moving parts. So you just let us walk in here, and I'm grateful for it, man. Thanks.
Yeah, well, welcome to my palatial.
Well, I want to get into the art soonish, but I guess let's level set to start with. Where were you born?
I was born in Illinois.
Okay. Where in Illinois?
Buffalo Grove.
What's that close to?
It's a small suburb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Springfield around there?
Sure.
Chicago?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
right.
So we moved to Florida when I was 7. So
Okay.
my memory of living there, it's really small.
Gotcha.
All I remember is it was really cold all the time, for the most part, and going to Cubs games with my dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you got to do that.
Absolutely.
Do you remember being really flat? Just a super flat state. That's what I always think of Illinois. It's just that in Indiana, just fucking flat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I went to high school in St. Louis, so like that's why I asked about Illinois. Like that means I know like 3 locations in Illinois, but yeah, that's that. Okay, so then you moved to Florida.
Yep.
Where you said, what was your dad doing?
So my dad was, he worked for Toys R Us, and he
Okay.
worked in their corporate office. He did payroll for the state of Florida. And then eventually he got really sick and tired of that shit. So he transitioned back into being a manager for some of their stores.
Okay.
And he never wanted to even do that job in the first place because he studied art in college. And after he was done, he got drafted to go into Vietnam. And then when he got back, he had a hard time getting his footing, finding his spot in the art world. So he gave up on his dream, and he started working the corporate job so he could pay bills and provide for his family.
All right, so I can't let all that go uncommented on. Wow. Okay, so in art school, did he finish art school before he went to Vietnam?
Yeah, he did.
So was he working as an artist?
Yeah, and he worked for a gallery as well.
Really?
But the gallery thing, that was more when he got back. He worked,
Okay.
He tried to find his footing doing that.
Just going on the other side
Yeah.
of the art world. Okay, the business side.
Mhm.
What was he doing as far as the art? Like, what kind of art was he into?
So he studied illustration, and
Okay.
he was an award-winning illustrator too. He got
Really?
a certificate. He got a partial scholarship from the Society of Illustrators. Like he won this big award.
Wow.
He did this like funny watercolor illustration of Joe Namath. So
And that's what won the award?
That's pretty much what did it.
Yeah.
And then he got to school, and he was working with some really well-known illustrators at the time. One of his mentors was an illustrator for Playboy, like back in the day.
Wow.
And that's a
Wow.
huge gig.
That was a huge gig. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
a
Yeah.
professor and a freelance illustrator.
Wow.
So
And where was he going to school? What art school was he going to?
so it was they changed their name,
Okay.
and it's not the same name that it used to be anymore.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm drawing. a
It's all right. On the off chance anyone would know or care what the answer was.
Fair enough.
I figured I'd throw it out there. If he hadn't gone to Vietnam, what was his career path looking like?
Well, he was trying to be an illustrator. That was his goal.
Okay.
So
And was he making moves? He got the award, but
right.
were jobs coming and was money coming a little?
Not so much.
Okay.
So Dad did illustration, and he was also an award-winning trumpet player as well. So he was a musician, artist,
Wow.
and he grew up in Gary, Indiana.
Holy shit.
Not
Yeah.
not the richest place in the world.
Right.
So they really never had a lot of money.
Right.
So when he got the opportunity to go to school, I took it.
You gotta do it. Yeah, absolutely. What was his first love? Trumpet or art?
That's a really tough one. I would guess the trumpet.
Really?
Yeah.
And he was playing what, big band stuff? Like what was
Yeah.
it?
So and like the crazy part was Dad, like he won all of these awards for that stuff, and then when he was in high school, he was also like sneaking out and playing in like bands in bars and like all of these performances as well. Like
Wow.
super duper successful with that stuff, and it just You know, I don't know. He often told me that he like his regret was giving up on like his dream, and I grew up with him always telling me to never grow up and be like him. That sucked to hear all the time.
Yeah, that's a weight.
But that's one of my motivating factors for everything I do.
Of course. How would it not be?
Yeah.
And he passed recently, right?
Yeah, he passed away in November.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, that's a weight. That's a weight. People on this show kind of heard me go. I mean, my dad and his unrequited artistry, so that hits a fucking nerve with me. Let's talk about his Vietnam experience. So he got drafted into the Army.
Yep.
And as what? What was his job?
So he went in infantry, but because of his education, he was like an E5 sergeant. So he went through all of the. I forgive me, I'm a civilian. I was never in the military. And I didn't know all of this stuff either until recently. Like I found like my mom has his discharge papers at home, and he never talked about any of this shit ever.
Yeah.
And because he always acted like everything he did like he was supposed to do, and it wasn't a big deal. And then like I find his like discharge papers in a room at my parents, and like I didn't know he was that high up. Like I like in the world of the military, like I know E5 isn't the greatest thing or the highest level, whatever, but like it's not bottom, it's not the top.
The Army.
Yeah,
back to the Army. No,
so he also did like the marksman stuff. Like he had like the ropes on his uniform because he was in Germany, and he did like all of the like the marksman training stuff that you guys do.
So he did. I can't remember how it worked back then, and you may not know, but I'm just wondering if he ever said, did he seek out the infantry, or was that just default setting?
I'm pretty sure it was default.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So so he goes to Germany before Vietnam.
Well, it was during.
Oh, it was during.
Yeah, so he was based in Germany.
He was based in Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know where?
I don't.
Just for those of us keeping score at home who love our German bases. Okay, so how long was he there before he pushed out to Vietnam then?
No, he didn't. He was in Germany the whole time.
Oh, he never pushed out to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So what did that mean for him? Like, did he ever talk? Was there ever any sense of like, because that's got to be a weird cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, right. Like I said, he just never really talked about any of this stuff. And it even when I was, I had started painting these things, it would like stir stuff up in him, and he would like, randomly like tell me a story like, oh, this one time I had to, like he had like guard duty for the base, and like, he said that, they would get into fights with people, or, like certain disagreements that, he would get into with other people he was there with, because, at the time, like there was such a huge divide of everything going on in the world.
So like disagreements with other guys, with other army guys,
or
and
German
civilians.
And then German civilians too.
Yeah.
So that it was a complicated time. It was segregated, I guess, due to lack of better.
So there's
all the
that
groups.
too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and my dad being where he was from, he wasn't a rich guy, so he was the kind of person that just wanted everybody to like him. He just wanted to get along with everybody. And I've always, I feel like I have that too, in a way.
Interesting.
But the older I've gotten, I guess the more I've kind of gotten away from that. But like, you can't worry about everybody liking you.
Right.
That was one area where my dad and I just kind of didn't see eye to eye.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we gotta mine some more stuff there in a little bit. Yeah, sure. That's an interesting digression. So when he's there in Germany, how long is he there for?
A few years.
Just a few years?
Yeah.
Okay. What years were they, do you remember?
I don't.
Okay. 60s or 70s?
Yeah, so like, to the point, like, I'm like basically now just finding out all the details of my father's military, like, experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy,
But that's, not to make this a fucking circle jerk where I just talk about how awesome we are and why we do it, but that is part of it. It's like, so many people just, they served, they did stuff. Nobody in their family, in their immediate circle has any fucking idea of what that was, what that did to them.
Right.
And then you're kind of picking up the detritus for the rest of your life, going, wait, what happened there? Wait, what was that about? Oh, why is this like that? You know, yeah, that's fucking, well, and especially as an artist with the artistic temperament, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm 43 years old and I don't know my dad's like, you know, experience with that stuff. Like, because it was always, like I said, he just wrote it off constantly. It was like, everybody had to do it. Like, and it wasn't until I got older and I have all these friends now that are like in the military as a career where I'm like, Dad, no, it's not. That's not just, no.
Well, and definitely the juxtaposition of being an infantryman, drafted, chosen the job or not, but you're an infantryman in a time of war, and you're in Germany.
Yeah.
And it's like, what does that mean? And what, you know, and how much of that is just, oh, well, dodge that landmine, and how much of it is, you know, guilt and, you know, survivor's guilt, or just, you know, some sense of burden, you know, from that. Who the fuck knows, you know? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a lot. When he came back then, did you ever get any read on what the disconnect was? Why it was difficult for him to find his footing?
The art world is a difficult place. And that's basically what it comes down to.
Okay.
You know? Like we don't have, I mean, I know that you know a lot about theater stuff,
mm-hmm.
right? There's no blueprint for any of us to follow.
Right.
It's who the fuck are you and why does this matter? And the thing that might work for me might not work for you.
Right.
You know, so I can tell you what I did, or you can tell me what you did, but you know, everyone has their own path. And I'm not sure I don't know if he had the drive for that part of it to just like keep pushing. Because, you know, after he had gotten back and he was trying to find his footing, him and my mom got married, you know, and then, you know, they were wanting to have a family too, so there was all of those things that he had to take into consideration, and the world was a different fucking place than it is now. There was no Instagram, no TikTok, none of that stuff. So, you know.
So that was it. So he wasn't even doodling on the side, like that's.
Oh no, he did all the time.
Oh,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and it was crazy too because the older I got and the commitment that I made to becoming an artist later in life, like lit his fire again. Really? So like I would come home from breaks from school and, you know, all of a sudden there would be all these like watercolors and like drawings everywhere. I'm like, fuck yeah, like this, like, yes, you know, like I'm doing the thing that you always told me to do. And I'm so glad that is, you know, bringing you back into it as well.
What happened to all of his stuff? Did you have it? Did he get rid of it? Was he one of those people that just brain dumped all of it and would get rid of it when he was done with it? Or did you archive it all?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's all there?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's one of those things too, like now, you know, my mom doesn't want anybody else to have it. Sure. And that's fine. Like
sure.
You know, but there are pieces that his brother has or his sister has or maybe like another family member has, and I'm glad that they have it because that's how you keeping this person alive and telling their story.
So now you're born into that, right?
Yeah.
Were you an artist from an early age, or did you have to discover it?
Dude, right off the bat.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was never, my entire life, this is all I've ever wanted to be.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why? So what was the first memory you have of it? What was the first significant event with it?
When I was in elementary school, we had to write a paper about what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I don't know if you're a classic WWF fan or not, but I always wanted to be like the Road Warriors.
Uh-huh.
And I wrote this paper, and I didn't give a shit about the paper. I just wanted to draw the picture. So I had this photograph of Hawk and Animal with the shoulder pads and the face paint and the muscles and all that. And I drew it, and then I brought it to school, and you know, it was that time period when you're a little kid and the teacher hangs up everybody's work in the classroom. Yeah. And I'll never forget that, like having my work up there, and it's this feeling like that's awesome. I was that kid that could draw in class. Like when I was younger, I might not have been the coolest kid because I didn't play sports,
right?
But I was the kid that could draw, and you know, that comes with the responsibility, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. What did you find yourself drawing? Was it more people like
Yeah.
that?
Well, yes, like comic book stuff, like
Okay.
Ninja Turtles, like
Okay.
all that kind of stuff that was popular then.
Was it narrative? Did you like try to do comic-y kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, eventually, because like I was saying, I didn't play sports. I was a really fat kid.
Okay.
So where I grew up in Florida, it was like if you wanted to play football, it was by weight. So if I wanted to play football, I would have had to have played with kids that were like in middle school when I was in elementary school. So there was that.
Yeah.
So my dad, he knew I'm stubborn like he is, and I'm creative, and he knew that there was going to be a point in time where he wasn't going to be able to teach me anymore. So he found me an illustrator to work with, and I grew up going to work with an illustrator on the weekends when everybody else was playing soccer and football and basketball and all that stuff. So,
But your dad had initially, was he your first art teacher?
he would give me pointers because
Okay.
the thing was when I was really young and he would critique me,
Yeah.
I used to get real pissy about it. Like he was
Yeah.
like attacking me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're never gonna like anything. He's like, no, I'm trying to help you. And I'm, you know, even as a kid, I used to just be real pissy about it. So he knew that's why also like why he knew he had to find someone else because I was just gonna, you know,
Yeah.
get like that.
Yeah. What age was this?
I started working with Walter when I was in third or fourth grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still have that stuff?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, my mom has it at their house.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
And he was an extremely like he was a very decorated illustrator as well. Like he did a lot of stuff. He worked with Don Bluth. He like made some
really?
postage stamps. Like
wow.
legit dude. Yeah.
What were you learning? What now looking back do you realize you learned from him?
Holy shit! I never thought about that before. He had the very classic illustrator approach to everything. So I would go to his class. He had a dry erase board. He would get up in front of the class, and you know he would basically ask us what type of character did we want to see that day. So every time I went there, we would draw and make up like 4 or 5 different characters in like an hour, from a circle and a stick. And this man would make these amazing like cartoon characters. It was phenomenal. This experience I'll never forget.
So what was the takeaway for that? Was it just for opening your imagination, or was it technique?
Both, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And starting simply.
Oh,
Right.
that's how all of this works now. I've never thought about that. Thanks for that.
No, yeah, I mean, it's to be exposed to somebody like that at that age. I mean, I can't help but leave an imprint, I guess. How long did you work with him?
For only a few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what was next for you artistically?
So then we actually moved to, I was in South Florida at that time, and then we moved to Central Florida because of my dad's job.
Okay.
And then my parents tried to find like I was in that like shittiest phase of everyone's life in middle school.
Right.
Like who the fuck moves in 8th grade? That is like the worst. Middle school is the worst, but on top of it, like 8th grade. So they found a school that I went to outside, like how I worked with with Walter, and I did that for a little bit, and then high school started, and I jumped right into sports and art as well. So I finally got my chance to like play sports, and it wasn't until I was in 9th grade. So
Had you been wanting to play sports all the time? You just
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. What did you want to play?
I always wanted to play football, and
Okay.
I always wanted to wrestle. And you know, being from Illinois, you're a fucking Bears fan. Like that fan base is insane.
Yeah, sure. And so now, did you do it in high school?
I did, and the high school that I went to was really competitive. It has a really like strong history of amazing athletes. And needless to say, I didn't really get much playing time until I was older. And wrestling, I had a little bit better time at. That definitely helped build confidence, if anything.
Yeah, sure.
And that's, yeah.
It's a man's sport right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What did that do to your art? Did it put it on the back burner, or did it complement it somehow?
You know, it was really weird. The guys on my team, I noticed like they had a hard time with it at first, and then they started seeing some of the stuff I was doing. So, yeah, it just I guess that depended on the person. Art was always there, but with some of my friends in high school, it was like, yeah, you're good at this thing, but what are you gonna do with that? You know, it was kind of dismissive.
Okay.
And that fucks with you too, because the type of person I am, I'm spiteful, I'm competitive, and you know, I would hear stuff like that, and I'm like, you know what, fuck you, watch this, you know, like I'm gonna do something with this. Like I love the yeah but people. I thrive off of that shit.
Interesting.
So
what did you find was your subject matter changing, or was it always the same?
It was definitely changing. You know,
Okay.
as you get older, like I'm not going to be a 17-year-old, you know, drawing the Road Warriors and the Ninja
Right.
Turtles.
Right.
My senior year of high school, I had an AP Art, and that was really competitive. There were a lot of talented kids in my class, and we had to, for you know, like our final like work, we had to make a body of cohesive work that told a story. And for me, it was like I wanted to paint about things that I was afraid of in my future.
Oh.
And it was, you know, like thinking about that now, it's kind of crazy to look back on.
Yeah.
You know, some of it was playful, but some of it was really serious. At the time, my grandfather was really sick, and I remember painting like one of the paintings about him. And then there was like a painting I did of being a homeless person, and you know, just random stuff.
So none of it was abstract though, right? Because it's all illustrations.
The hand, so the painting I did of my grandfather, it was an abstract hand.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and it was big. It was just like a hand going like this, like reaching out to you.
Ooh, yeah.
So yeah, 17 years old. It's kind of some deep shit for a 17
Yeah, it
year old.
is. Yeah.
Especially for a jock.
Well, that can happen though,
It
right?
can,
Yeah,
yeah,
that shakes something up. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, right. Coming out of, so as you're going into your senior year of high school, what was the next step? What did you think the next step needed to be?
I was one of those kids. I had no idea
Really?
at
Okay.
all. And after I graduated high school, I spent some time in community college trying to figure that out, because I was fighting this fight, right? Like I was really, really good at this one thing, but I had no idea how I was going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and just constantly like hearing Dad's voice like in my head too, like don't be like me.
So what did that translate to? Did he say not only don't be like me, but you need to be doing X, Y, and Z? Did he actually lay out what he thought you should be doing?
Well, yeah, I mean they were trying to like connect me with artists to work with to maybe understand a little bit better, because all he could do was tell me like what not to do. He couldn't really tell me like how to be like successful at this, because the only person that he really knew was the mentor he had when he was in college.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Kind of dated it.
Yeah.
Right. Did you consider? Were you still in Central Florida at that point?
So no, I was now in North Florida.
Okay.
In Tallahassee.
So did you consider just getting out of Dodge altogether and like, let me go to LA, let me go to New York, let me go to Chicago, did you think about that?
Absolutely. So when I got to Tallahassee, I was in school there, and then an art school came to make a presentation. And my art teacher had just given me a scholarship, and she she really believed in what I was doing. And she was like, you need to go to this thing, and you need to go to this art school and stop wasting your time here.
Oh.
So I was like, all right. So I went, and it clicked, and it was the Savannah College of Art and Design in
Gotcha.
Savannah, Georgia. And I saw the presentation, and at this time I was like, I think I just turned 22. So yeah, clock was fucking ticking.
Yeah, right.
So I saw the presentation. I went to a visit, and I brought my mom with me. Dad was working, of course. So we went to the school, and I was hooked. And I knew, like, I went there, and I was like, this is where I need to be. There's just something about it.
Right. Why didn't that click sooner?
That's a really good question.
Because you've been into art. I mean, like, it wasn't a surprise that you were into art.
Right. And I went on visits to like see art schools when I was a senior in high school, because the AP art like program, it really pushes you. And I had to go to a portfolio day in Miami where schools like will look at your portfolio and, you know, early accept you, or like tell you like you should apply here because there's a good chance that you would go to the school. And I got a lot of positive feedback. My AP score was really high, like the whole thing. And I just was like, I started listening to the fucking people I went to high school with, you know, like that kind of thing. Like it kind of set in, and even like maybe even some family members as well that didn't really like think that this was a good idea. So
Not your dad, presumably.
of course not my mom either. You know, just like peripheral, like you know, family members.
Then that begs the question, I guess, why wasn't their influence louder in your mind? I mean, when you had your dad going, "Don't be like me," why didn't that trump anything else? Of like, hey, like even if he doesn't know the specific path, go, "Hey, motherfucker, you need to go to art school like now. Like this is what you do."
Yeah. Well, he did his best to let me know that was what I needed to do. Like he went on the visits with me to see some of the schools early on. But you know, again, like that whole thing, school's fucking expensive, and if you art schools are ridiculous.
Yep.
Sure. You know, and that was part of it too. Like if you know that cost was just, I remember some of those things are just insane.
Yeah, I believe it. So there was kind of a natural incentive to maybe find another way to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And well, I mean, at the same time also, like, taking on that responsibility as a 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, you know, like.
Trying to do the costs and
yeah, well, I mean, but also think about all the people that you've known in your life too, who have said that they're going to do this thing, and then the course changes.
Right.
You know.
Right.
The course changes, but you still owe this money. And at that point, it's going to be plus interest as well. So if you like this thing, you better fucking do it. So there's that. And there's all these like factors, you know, like all these things played a part. But I love this. Like I've never loved anything like I loved this before.
And that really was unchanged from the beginning too.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's so interesting. I wonder. Was there a sense of failure about? Were you scared of failure? Was there a sense of like, if I do this, I've got to fucking, like you go to an art school, it's almost the implicit obligation to fucking be something.
Yeah.
Was there? And I'm projecting a little bit,
That's right.
but based on my own dad's experience as an unrequited writer, who when he died, I slept on top of his novel because I had a bed with like an empty thing, and literally it was, I don't know what the actual count was, but it had to be somewhere north of 100,000 pages since going back to 1964 that had never been published, never seen the light of day. And that's all he would do. He couldn't sit through a movie. Like we'd be watching a movie at home and he'd get up, go into his room and just start writing by hand on his long yellow legal pads and just writing stuff to work on stories, and just story, and gnawing at, and there's all the same story that he was working on that whole time. So I'm anteing that up. That's where I'm coming from when I hear this. But I know for me, I had to overcome that sense of, hey, no matter how talented you are, how dedicated you are, success is not for you. It isn't going to happen because there was just running into a brick wall. So I'm kind of fishing with that. Was there anything of that in your experience where it was like, hey, I'm not sure if there's a path to victory here because art world is hard, and if I really commit to this, is it going to burn me? Is it going to be unrequited?
Absolutely, like that, yeah. Because when you think about it, how many famous artists do you know?
Right.
Successful, financially successful. I should also add on that too. Like to have the audacity, if you would say, I guess, for like a normal person that's coming from not the the most means.
Right.
To think that you're going to be in a museum one day, or your work is good enough to be in a gallery, that's enough to make some people stop right there.
Sure.
You know, like, who do you think you are that you could do that? Like, that you can hang with this person?
Sure.
I always had that ridiculous amount of belief in myself, but it's but like, you know, you're 18 years old and maybe you haven't really, you haven't had that, like, that reinforcement, you know?
And the modeling, right?
Yeah.
You need somebody to model it for you a little
Right.
bit, right?
Yeah, because even the AP class that I had, you know, there were always the kids that were the good ones. You know, like, I was talented, but was I the best kid in that class? No. You know, and in school, there's so much of that bullshit that happens.
Yeah.
And when you're younger and you don't know that yet and you buy into that shit,
Right.
that can defeat you too, because it's like, you know that you're good, but you're not as good as that one kid in that class. Well, fuck that kid, who cares?
Right.
And it wasn't until I went to art school that I really, really realized that.
And that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely,
too, right?
fucking yes. Yeah.
I'll ask one more question about modeling. Was there anybody? Did you have? I guess let's just say the perseverance, the stamina. Did you understand how important that was in the art world to just plug away? Or did you have to learn that on your own?
It's crazy that you asked that too, because that was something I had to learn on my own, and it wasn't even through art either. So my mouth has gotten me in trouble a lot throughout my life, because I have a hard time holding back. That's why I've never been able to have, like, a real job. When I think something is fucking stupid, I say it, or I don't care. Like, I just have a hard time with authority, right?
Okay.
So when I was playing sports in high school, that's when that stuff really started to, like, come to the surface. And that was one of the reasons that I didn't get much playing time either, is because I would let my coaches know that when they did something that I thought was dumb, I didn't, like, just bite my tongue. So when I was in 11th grade, I was dead set on, like, being a starting, like, position guy my senior year. Like, I was on that track to be that dude. And then I decided, since I wrestled also, I wanted to lose a bunch of weight, right, to be a different weight class. So I did all that stuff, and our football coach demanded that we go to off-season weight training while we were in wrestling. And I was like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. I play football year round. This is like a few months where I'm just going to be a wrestler for
Right, sure.
And he didn't like that, so he, like, kicked me and, like, two of my other buddies, like, off of the football team.
Wow.
Going into our senior year.
Wow.
So I was fucking devastated. I'm like, I just sat the bench for 3 years to get ready for potentially 1 year to be a decent football player, right? So the summer going into my senior year, our parents fucking made an uproar about this shit. So the coach had a meeting with us and our parents and told us that if we wanted to get back onto the football team for our senior year, we had to be at school every single morning that summer, and we had to run 3 miles, and then we had to lift weights immediately after to make up for all of the training sessions that we missed. Yeah, so that summer, I lost almost 40 fucking pounds.
Wow.
So when I got into my senior year of high school, I was, like, right at, like, 180 pounds.
Wow.
And I was supposed to play center.
Huh.
And I don't know. So that senior year, that shit didn't happen. Absolutely not.
Right.
So, but that was the thing that I learned, though, was that summer, because like I said, I was in Florida.
Yeah.
Every morning, my buddies and I, we were at the fucking track to run 3 miles, and we had to have a parent with us too, because they had to check off that we were there doing
Holy
it.
shit.
Luckily enough, one of the guys that went with me, his dad was a runner, so he was going to be running anyway.
Wow.
So anyway, I lost all that weight, but it was through those 3 miles every day that I learned, like, you get control of this shit, no matter what it is. I lost weight, and I knew then, like, this shit's gonna be hard, but if you stick to something and you follow through it, you're gonna get what you fucking want.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't get to be the starting position for the football team, but, like,
you saw transformation.
I saw, and the way that people treated me in school was completely different too, because I was the fat kid, and then I came back and then I was the kid that was in shape, and then it was completely fucking different.
Did you ever get out of shape ever again?
No.
I know, well, I'm sure as you do, I know kids that were fat when they were little, and once they lost that weight, that's it.
Dude,
locked in.
Yeah, that's
zeroed in, that's it, never happened again. Fucking wild. So now, translating all that into your early 20s.
Yeah.
So you go to art school.
Yep.
What was the biggest takeaways from going to art school? What did you learn? Like, looking back at it now, was it worth it?
Everything that I have right now is because of that decision.
Really?
Absolutely. I can say that there are so many things that changed my life making that decision. I think about it every fucking day. Like, that's how prominent it is. And any of my friends that I'm super close with, they'll probably tell you that same thing. Like, I have a very tight-knit group, a friend circle. I met all of those guys there. Some of them I played sports with in college with. And basically all of them I met through the gym. And my wife I met through the gym too, at school. So, yeah, that choice to go there, there were so many things that happened when I got there. Like I was saying, you know, the shitty football story, and then additionally, like, I got sick because of the weight that I lost. And then my senior year of high school, like, it was almost 3 months that I wasn't in school because I had mono, because I lost so much weight. I continued to lose weight and then, like, I wanted to wrestle at 171.
Okay.
So,
you got mono from the weight loss?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So, yeah, my wrestling season, it sucked as well. Like, I was finally, like, in a different weight class, and I wasn't a fat kid anymore.
Right.
You know, and then that whole thing went to shit too. So,
wow.
Yeah, I left high school athletics with a really, really sour, like, taste in my mouth for sports. And then I got a second chance when I went to art school, because our school had an athletics program. And when I transferred there, I had spent those couple of years after high school doing nothing but fucking lifting weights. And I put on serious fucking size. And when I got to art school, it was a big athletics program for art school. There was, like, swimming, baseball, basketball. I didn't play any of those sports. That wasn't for me. And when I got there, I saw that there was a sign on the gym door that said that there was an interest meeting for a lacrosse team. So I was like, I can fucking do that. So I went to the meeting. Everybody that was at the meeting had played lacrosse their entire life. They were all like kids from the Northeast, Virginia, Maryland, New York, all, you know. Yeah. And I was like, we used to make fun of lacrosse players when I was in high school. Like, I'm from Florida. Like, those were the kids that couldn't play football. So I went out and, yeah, man, like, my goal was to, like, go out there. It was kind of like prison mentality, I guess. Like, I want to find, like, the toughest kid and, like, lay him out first day. I want everyone to know, like, I might not be good at this, but I'm going to show everyone that I'm tough. Right, yeah. So I did that, and, yeah, like, it stuck. We were a startup team. We were a club team in the beginning, and I earned a spot on there. I saw a guy who was a starter, and I was like, I'm going to make this fucking kid's living hell every day, or, living hell for this kid every day of practice until I get that starting spot that I know I can earn. And I did that, and I eventually became a starter. I was like a team leader. It was like a second chance of being an athlete.
Is that true for most art schools, that they have athletic programs?
No way. And
yeah, that seems like a big value add.
Yeah,
to an art school, because you need that counterbalance, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is, like, it goes, again, like, one of those things that I saw transition, like, progression over time. We started out as a club program. The school got behind us. And then my last year of undergrad, we became a full-fledged varsity sport. Yeah. We got scholarships. Wow. And, like, my last year, I was a scholarship athlete. So, like, that was checking a box.
And you, the whole time, were you on were you paying your whole way?
Oh, dude.
Up until then?
Yeah, I
Wow.
had student loans out the ass.
Holy
but,
shit.
you know, that was after, you know, college started and I wasn't happy with anything. It's like, all right, I've tried other things. I've tried to do other majors. I've thought about different paths to go down. This shit is not for me.
Yeah.
I'm going back to what I love to do. And then, you know, I bit the bullet with interest.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, just as a thought experiment, what would have happened if you'd gone the guerrilla route, not gone to art school, come to the city, just tried to fucking find an art crowd, fit in, you know, like, and I'm looking at this practically. Like,
Sure.
if you're like, hey, I want to exercise my talent, I don't want to go broke and get deep into loans with it. What would have happened if you'd done that, do you think?
It wouldn't have.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have, because I didn't have. So that's another part of the story from art school. That's my takeaway. What gave me the balls to do it, because we were a startup lacrosse team, and my friends are they're so sick and tired of hearing me fucking talk about this. But we
I think there's an Instagram reel about former lacrosse players or something.
Yeah.
Like I actually have seen, now that you say that. Yeah,
man.
that's
Like,
funny.
Because we were a startup program, our coach had to be a school employee, so he was an illustration professor.
Huh.
And
Okay.
since he was an illustration professor, he had an office mate who was a painting professor.
Okay.
And he introduced me to the painting professor when I got into my major courses, which was painting. And that man eventually became my mentor that I worked with outside of school. Nobody could really know about that because, you know, he was my teacher, I was a student. Like, I had a key to his house. He lived like the most romantic, like, imagined artist life you could ever live. He had a tiny television in his bedroom with a DVD player. He didn't even watch TV. His entire life was painting. That's all he did.
Wow.
Theory, reading, painting, the whole thing. He was a New York guy for a long time. He painted murals all over the place. And then he came to Savannah to be a professor. He was sick the whole time, and I didn't know until the very end. But you know, he passed on this legacy for me. You know, I always heard stories about what it was like here, and when you're done with school, you have to go here. This is, you know, the proving ground. And then after he passed away, I met my wife like a couple of months later, and you know, it's just one thing after another. She got an internship up here one summer, and then I got an internship up here one summer. So we came up here, and as soon as you get here, you know the energy that's got here. It's not like anything else. Until then, I was way too afraid to ever think that New York is somewhere I could ever be.
Yeah.
Because growing up in Florida, New York, who the fuck, like, who goes to New York?
Right.
That place is terrifying, you know?
Well, and that's also, I mean, I say this as a very biased New Yorker, but I mean, you know, I mean, I do think, and there's a downside to this, which I'll cop to in a second, just so I don't sound like a completely cocky asshole. But I mean, I think New York is the place you come to when you want to be the best in the world at something.
Absolutely.
Right? And it doesn't matter what it is. Restaurants, finance, sport, sports, maybe that's the one exception. But art, certainly, you know, anything in the culture, music. If you want to be the best, then this is where you come. The downside of that is then I do believe New York is as provincial as any backwoods, you know, place you can find in the world, because it has its own biases and its own provincialism and all that.
What are you talking
But
about?
yeah, right. It's the amount of experts you have on. I don't know. New Yorkers are experts on everything, regardless of whether they've done it or been there or not, because they let that hubris follow them. I'll say that for my New York self-examination episode. Anyway, so for you coming here, how long did it take you to fit in?
I think I'm still trying.
Yeah. Okay. So I realized as soon as I said that, I was like, that's going to, yeah, I'm going to need to drill into that a bit more. How long did it take before you felt like you just had your legs under you?
Oh, shit.
let's even go by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, okay, I've got my lodging, I've got my food, you know, like all that. Like, what was the transition like?
It's awful. Everyone that comes here has that same shitty story. Like, nobody understands what it's like to just find a fucking apartment to move into here. Like, it's insanity. You just can't walk into a building and apply for an apartment and get it.
Right.
That's not how this place works.
Yeah.
You never talk about that stuff. And, you know, I can't tell you you know, as a guy that, again, like going back to the theater stuff, like the amount of jobs that I have had just to be able to do this, people aren't willing to go through that type of shit either.
Yeah.
Like, I could ramble off right off the top of my head at least 10 different jobs I've had since I've been here. But the thing is, like, I don't give a fuck about that stuff because I see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I was that kid running those fucking 3 miles, you know? Like, I've been through shit already. Like, it's gonna suck for a while until I get where I want to go. Like, just put in the fucking work and shut up, you know?
How many people did you know who couldn't keep up with the pace? Were you friends with people that were here? You guys kind of bond because you're here initially, and then, hey, I'm not doing art anymore. Or, hey, I've left the city.
That's a sensitive subject, I guess, sometimes for some people, but for me, it's not. I mean, the competitive thing, like, I love quitters.
Yeah.
I really do.
It's validating.
Please.
Yeah.
Like, you want to play this game? I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
There's way too many promises I've made. There's way too much shit I've seen. Like, yeah, I love quitters.
I don't want to leave art school totally without just drilling into the actual art part. What did you find you were gravitating towards as an artist coming out of art school? You talked about your mentor and painting and all that.
Yeah.
But you moved, it seems, really from illustration to painting, really, as your primary medium. Is that right?
I mean, you could say that, but really, like, my work now, it's all of those things merging together.
Yeah, yeah. Were you finding that, though, even then?
I was, and that was like, I'm not going to say a conflict, but maybe an area where my mentor and I, we disagreed a little bit because he was just classic, you know, not illustration.
Okay. Classic
Painter. Things need to look a certain way. Only soft edges, no hard lines.
Is that the big border? Is that the boundary between illustration and painting?
I mean, it could, you know, it depends because there's so many different like styles of painting. Like, if you asked like a street artist, like a graffiti guy about stuff like that, you know, they can do all of those things. And you know, illustration too, because a lot of those guys now, they use watercolors and markers and pencils.
Right.
Yeah. That line is very blurry.
Yeah, I mean, just philosophically, talk about just how helpful are labels in the art world for you as an artist? Do you recoil at them or do you embrace them?
I don't embrace them. I fucking hate them because you're putting somebody in a box.
Yeah.
Like, the worst for me is when someone's like, "Oh, you're a portrait painter." No, I'm not. I'm a fucking artist. Like. And the funny thing about it is people are like, what do you get so mad about it for? And, you know, like, I get it. From somebody that's not in this, like, it might seem like that because people will look at your, you know, social media stuff and they see 1 or 2 things and then they immediately assume like, oh, this guy did this thing, so then he's that. And then a lot of people in the art world too, like advisors and like gallerist type people, like, when they try to put your work out there, they want to see that it all looks the same so that they can put you in a box to buyers.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
Oh, you want, you know, like figurative artist? I've got your guy. You know, abstract painter? I got your guy. Well, what happens when it's all of this shit together? Then what? You know?
How big is that segment of the art population? How many people do what you do? How many people do you look at and go, oh, that's kind of similar, or at least you're dabbling in the same areas that I dabble in? Do you find that to be common or not so much?
So I guess this is where that whole New York bias thing, I've been here for a while now, and I've always kind of had this mentality. I don't really look at other people's stuff because, quite frankly, like, I don't care what they do. And a lot of people have a hard time with that, and when they hear me say that, they're like, you're kind of a dick. I'm like, I'm competitive.
How does that competition, where does the competition get settled? Is it in your personal estimation of how good your work is? Is it in how much money you can make and how sustainable your life is from it? Like, so where does that competitiveness get adjudicated?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. You can't really just put it on one of those.
Okay.
You know, because there's the whole like self-fulfilling thing.
Right.
Like, I am committed to this thing. My work is unique to me. It's my perspective. And it's when I feel like it's good, you know? Now, does it help when people buy it? Fucking hey, of course it does.
Sure.
Like, you know, but I don't know. Like, if you're just trying to get people to like you, then you're doing the wrong fucking thing. You know, like, I feel like as soon as you are making art to do that, it's not art anymore. It's decoration. And I'm not a decorator. I'm an artist. There's a huge difference.
I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask this anyway. If you went on a 3-year drought and couldn't sell a fucking piece of art, or not, let's not even say 3 years, let's say 5 years, 7 years, would you question what you were doing? Would you be tempted to give it up, or would you go, fuck it, if I got to get a survival job, I get a survival job, but I'm going to keep churning it out no matter what?
Well, since I've already been there,
Yeah.
I already know how this feels. And yeah, I'm one of those guys, like, I enjoy hard work. And I'm not above any of that shit, like finding one of those like survival jobs. I've done a million things, like I said, like,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Just so that I know that, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
When you went through your droughts, which every artist does, what were your takeaways? Because I feel like those hard times never leave you where they find you.
No, they never leave,
right?
Ever.
Yeah. So what leveled up for you? What changed for you because of that?
Persistence. I mean, really, that's what it all comes down to.
Just will.
Yeah, because that's another thing that I learned here too. Everything is a numbers game, right? Like, you just keep shooting your shot. You're not. That's the thing. Like, that, it goes back to that. Like, what you do. Some people might not like it. Some people might fucking hate it. They think you're trash, you know? And then there's somebody that it really resonates with. It's a numbers game. You just have to keep shooting your shot constantly.
What about your art? Does it, looking at it now, how is it different than when you left art school?
That's weird. I feel like, man, if anybody, like, younger person hears this and, like, is in, like, art school situation, like, I feel like a lot of things that I did in art school are homework projects. They're homework assignments.
Mm-hmm.
That's not this.
Sure.
You know, you have to go through life. I feel like that's my personal feeling. That's not the definitive answer for everybody. You have to experience things, like, in order to make this kind of stuff. Now, some people, I wouldn't say fortunate, that's not the right word, but have gone through some shit already,
right,
and can somehow, like, some people can get started sooner than others.
So when you look at, can you tell, or could a person that didn't know you tell, looking at your work, when you did a piece based off the technique, based off of themes, based off of anything? Is there anything objectively different that you've seen happen with your work?
Yeah, the one thing that's, I think, would be able to tell is that, because it was in school, that, when I made an abstract painting, it was just abstract because it was for a class. When I had to make an illustration, it was an illustration for a drawing class.
Okay. Okay.
It was just one of the things. Like, this took a while for me to figure out, like, all right, what is all of this going to look like when it's together? There's a lot of, like, process. A lot.
And what would talk about that process? So when you came to the city and you start to do your work,
mm-hmm.
What are you fucking around with? Are you finding yourself doing, hey, I don't have a lot of room, I don't have a ton of time, I'm working survival jobs? Do you shrink the scale of the work you're doing? Are you trying to be adventurous and mix and match and, you know, mess with different media and different styles? Like, what was your journey?
Yeah, so when I got here, it was again like starting from nothing. I knew two people here. One guy I played lacrosse with in college, and the other guy was my mentor's brother. So besides those guys, pretty much I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
I was trying to get my foot in the door with anybody that would look at anything I've ever done art wise, and I did like a lot of like events with like nonprofit groups.
Okay.
And you know, like their art auctions, you know, like that's one of the things that a lot of people always try to catch somebody on is like, hey, you know, you want to get your name out there, do this charity event. So I did a few, and
talk to for so art auction meaning you are not going to make a dime off this.
Correct.
You're giving away your work
because the potential to meet people that you would not otherwise meet who are, you know, financially able to buy art, support art, have leads to other things would be potentially there. All the venues that I had stuff at were all big venues. The events were all big events. It was cool. My wife and I got to go to, you know, flashy things early on. But, you know, again, it's like if you want to sell work at this thing, this is what your work should look like. So I did that for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ashamed to say that because I just finished school. I needed to figure out how to get into these places. So I did that, and you know, I wasn't happy with what was going on, so I fucking stopped and I just started making my own work.
First off, what were they asking you to do?
Just, you know, make something that's not like this, like make something that's, you know, placeable, like make it an abstract painting that somebody would want to put in their living room, or make it you know, like a portrait of somebody that somebody would, you know, hang in their living room, like that type of stuff, like decoration, you know, and that's fine because it sells quick, but does it have a soul? I don't think so.
And it wasn't scratching your itch for damn sure.
No.
What did it clarify for you? What did you realize you wanted to be doing?
So my mentor, his main lesson that he always taught me, above everything else, the story and the work has to be the star above all else. And I never lost focus of that, but I knew, like I said, like if I wanted to get into these places, I had to kind of play the game, right? So over time, I try to make the best out of every situation because that way I don't lose focus as well, right? So I have all these shitty jobs, but along the way I've met some fucking incredible people who have amazing fucking stories. And I use that as a jumping off point for my stuff.
Did that initially translate into a lot of straight portraiture, or were you immediately trying to pull and extrapolate and move the media around a little bit?
Yeah, I wanted to do that, but I always had that battle in my head, like, I'm not interested in just painting a photograph.
Yeah.
That's lame, you know? Like, that's the first thing that you learn how to do in school, you know? Like when you're painting. I just didn't want to do that. And I knew that I wanted to take it, you know, if I want to have a name for myself, like it's got to stand out. It's got to look different. It can't be what, you know, guys were doing or have done a million times already. So, you know, it's taking all the things that I learned, my experiences, and here we are.
If you had to, and I'm sure you've been asked to brand yourself.
Mm-hmm. All the time.
What does that mean for you then? How do you process that? Like, is there I'm not saying what label do you put on it, although maybe there's that too, but when you go, hey, I know what a Mitchel Coffman thing is like, and I know what it's not. How do you define that? What are your left and right limits?
That's a good question. I don't know, you know, I always try to challenge myself. It's not the same thing, you know, like I've painted, I've worked on some film stuff, like I've even done like conceptual performance pieces, like it's just challenging myself. I don't really know a good answer for you because it's not gonna look the same all the time.
Gotcha.
I'm an artist. That's how I would brand myself. And like people don't like that answer
because you're on your journey.
Because I'm on it, and this is my terms. Yeah. I am defining this, not you.
Yeah. Has the market ever been helpful to you? Has feedback from the market ever mattered or made an impact? Where you go, oh shit, that's actually a good point, or shit, actually that gives me some guidance or some direction on maybe it would be nice to sell more things. Has that ever happened? Has that ever been a consideration?
I mean, it has to be.
Right.
You have, I can't dismiss it. But then it's up to me to decide if I agree with it and want to do it or not.
How often have you agreed with it?
Well, you can probably count on one hand.
Yeah.
Because it's not authentic,
Right.
That's making work to hang in a frame and Target. Yeah. Like I can't do that. I didn't go to school and do all these things to just be that guy.
What was the best piece of feedback you've gotten? Whether from a gallery owner, the market, what was the best piece that you got?
No, you mean like criticism or?
Yeah, criticism or even just, I mean, I guess what Churchill say, he has a right to criticize, who has a heart to help, if there's something like that, if there's something that or even if it wasn't meant to help, but that you were like, no, shit, that's actually a good point. What was the best piece that anybody's ever, or critic, any kind of criticism?
Well, early on, I guess when online forums became a thing, and I was in grad school, the conceptual work I was doing, I got the attention of some like bodybuilders and muscular development publication magazine. And they posted some of my stuff on there, and the fucking the dumpster fire of comments that came about they made me laugh, but there's also some truth to that stuff too. I don't dismiss criticism. I mean, I had to go through critiques all the time. Like that's
right.
Part of the game. Like, right. You just have to understand that some people, like you said, like they're there to help you, and there's some people that are there to break you down.
Right.
So I feel like I do a really good job of listening to everything and then determining what to do with it. Because there were some people on that forum that were like, I will never forget this. This guy was like, this looks like two rabbits fucking on a canvas. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because my thesis work, the conceptual stuff was, my group of gym friends and I, like, we covered these massive like tractor tires that the strongmen flip. Yeah. We covered them in paint and flipped them on a canvas to see who could flip their tire the longest. Gotcha. And it was a long performance piece. Wow. And some people were like, this is fucking awesome. And then, there's the rabbit humping comment, it just. That's funny. Yeah, got it. But I was finishing grad school, so I wasn't here yet.
Got you. Let's just briefly, before we dive into this work, which I want to spend some time with, let's talk about the performance pieces, the live art you did, the conceptual stuff you're doing. What turned you on the most, or was it just whatever is different, whatever you haven't done yet?
That was part of it, but after my mentor passed away, one of my other professors was like, "Okay, man, he's gone now, and you are not going to spend the rest of your life painting like him." And it was funny because I've quoted him before, and what he told me, I was in his office with him. He's like, "You have to be a bastard now, and you have to go your own way." He's like, don't forget what he taught you, but you have to do your own thing. And he really pushed me to explore the athlete artist avenue. And I didn't want to do it at first because I'm like, dude, this is fucking stupid. What am I supposed to do with this? And then he started showing me examples of other artists who had done it, performance art.
What does that mean, the athlete artist? Talk about that.
So it's, early on for me, I was really, in the college, I was really into powerlifting and playing lacrosse, which, right off the bat, you're like, that's not a thing, dude. Those two worlds are not one. But there was this masculine thing, I guess you could say, that I was always trying to pursue. That not many other artists, I don't think, were really interested in. and what the definition of like a man artist was. So, and he knew that I was like super into this stuff, and he had me do some performance pieces and classes as like trial runs with like weights. And one time I had two of my friends who I'm actually painting about now as well. He was moonlighting as an MMA guy, and he was fighting a lot. He actually moved to Vegas to pursue a career in it after we were done with art school. I had him and his sparring partner come into class and like unannounced and just beat the piss out of each other. And that was like one of my projects that my teacher pushed me to do.
Did you photograph it and then try to take pictures and then try to paint the photographs, or did you try to do art live, or
no?
What was how did you process that?
With that class, it was a performance art class.
Okay.
That was like, it was performance art. So
right.
There weren't any paintings that came about from it.
Okay.
But it was a fun experience, and
it was literally just them just going at it.
That was just one piece.
Okay.
Because then there was another piece where a teammate and I, we got a tiny like performance space within the building, because they had these like tiny rooms.
Yeah.
That you could use for like weird shit that you wanted to do, like exploratory things. And we brought like the heavy dumbbells from the gym, and there was audio from pumping iron, like where Arnold's talking about coming, like the pump and all that stuff. And you know, we did this whole like lifting till failure performance piece in my class. And
interesting.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't want to put my thumb on the scale and jump to conclusions, but it feels like from the moment you talked about drawing the Road Warriors, like you have been drawn to hyper masculine, right, archetypes,
I guess,
in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't say no either, because you look at this table and there's action figures from when I was a kid, so kind of shooting myself in the foot. But yeah.
So I mean, I guess that's as good a segue as any into some pretty hyper masculine type dudes here when we go to Ranger Bat, right?
Yeah.
In a regiment. So how did this come about?
So the whole military thing came about in my transition from undergrad to grad school. The work I did with the lacrosse team, it earned me a scholarship for grad school. Mm-hmm. The strength coach from the college approached me and said, I need a graduate assistant. The school is finally letting me have one. Would you want to be the first person to do it? And I was like, I got this fucking debt from undergrad.
Sure.
This is another avenue for me to go down if, you know, I need to. And on top of all of this, on a resume, I get to put I was a college level coach. Let's fucking do it. So I did it. And when I got into grad school, you know, obviously my teammates that I came up with in undergrad, they were all gone. So I was Coach Coffman now, which is fucking weird to even say to this day.
Wow.
And I had to find a new workout partner at school because they were all gone. And there was this one dude that I had seen for years at this point in the gym all the time. He was a skinny kid that played soccer, and he was always in there like doing incline dumbbell press. Like some fucking guys just are drawn to doing just the same shit all the time. Right. And my strength coach was always pushing me. He's like, Coach Coffman, you gotta talk to Zach. Zach needs a workout partner. And I was like, you mean that fucking skinny kid that played soccer? Fuck that kid. Like, I don't want to talk to him. And, you know, I like the ego. Like, I was the fucking, like, the strong athlete at the school, in our school, whatever that means. And I fought this forever, and I was like, fuck, there's nobody else. All right, fuck it, I'll talk to this fucking Zach kid. So I went up to him, and we started talking, and then we started working out together. And come to find out, Zach was not a soccer player anymore. He had gained some weight, and he was fighting on the side in addition to going to school.
Okay.
Some of the guys he was sparring with were the Rangers.
Because you're in Savannah.
In Savannah,
yeah.
Hunter Army Airfield.
Yeah.
He was training them. Him and his roommate turned their apartment into half apartment, half training gym.
Wow.
So it wasn't a place where you would like bring girls ever, because it smelled like shit. But you know, it filled the need. And they were training with them, and he, you know, Zach asked me one day, he was like, hey man, do you think that we could bring some of the Rangers into the art school gym to work out with us? And I was like, dude, you want to bring like special forces dudes into like the art school gym? And he was like, yeah, let's do it, you know? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I want to see how I fucking stack up against these dudes, you know? Like I've always been curious, like that competitive thing. Like sports was over. Now it's just what am I gonna do? You know, there's no more games. So we started working out with some of those guys, like overnight, brother. Like it was fucking crazy how fast it happened.
And what were you doing? Was it CrossFit? Was it powerlifting? Like what were you? What was the routine?
It was a combination of all that stuff.
Oh, really?
So yeah, there would be days where we would do like an insane CrossFit workout. Then there would be a day where we just focused on lifting, because when they, like my friend Mike Baumgarten, Rob Sanchez, like when they were home from deployment, you know, they didn't have a lot of time, so we had to like smash a lot of shit in there. So we tried to cover all the bases, and it was fun because, you know, every day like it would be the same routine. Like we would pull up to the gym. Everybody had like their unique vehicle. Like Zach had this like Acura that looked like a spaceship. Mike had this fucking black Charger that was like Darth Vader, like Deathmobile, and then I had like a black Dodge Ram. And we would sit in the gym every day and like figure out like, okay, today we're gonna do this. It was like a meeting of the minds first, and then we would just go execute this thing. And it was really fun. And you know, like there were a lot of people that took notice of what we were doing, and then, you know, people started jumping in too. This art school, art kid, like Army Ranger group that we had that was fucking awesome.
How did that, I guess, for lack of a better word, how did that go over? Was there a culture clash?
Oh.
Suddenly having dudes like that in there?
Oh, man, yeah. Because the strength coach that I was working for, he was like, you know, he eventually caught wind of it, because I couldn't sneak them in there. Like, that's a huge insurance thing. So we used to have to do it towards the end of the night. Like,
no, you're good. Go for it. It's right there behind the thing. No, you're good. Yeah, don't worry about it. Shit. Let it run. So I got a bit of editing. Just make note of the time, and we'll edit that time accordingly.
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn my phone off.
And actually, Jay, just take a note. It's going to be 1 hour 12 minutes on both those. And actually, I'll tell you what. While we're paused, can I grab a coffee?
Yeah,
While we got a painting moved.
Do you want me to take that?
No. Let it run. It's fine, because it'll be one just thing, and we'll hit it accordingly.
It's an 8 hour too. You fucking run. Yeah, man, I got you. Did you? I have some. Do you want some too?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Kill it.
Here. Black, or do you want some?
I know I'm not gonna go back, but thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
We'll go with the hazelnut.
Yeah, you know, because it's
Because
delicious.
that's what we do when we come here, right? Thank you.
Otherwise, nobody talks to
Thank
you.
you so much.
Well, I'll talk to you.
You just won't
Say
like
derisive
it, right?
things, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you got that?
Yeah. Sure? No. That was my mom. Oh, I had a feeling she was gonna do that.
Sounds like a mom.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we'll,
Pick back up.
Jay, we'll just, no, you're good, don't worry about it. We'll put in for, I'll tell you the exact time hack, but it's gonna be like 1 hour 14 minutes.
14.
Yeah, and let's just say around 30 seconds. Margaret's got to just go through and just find the exact cut.
Okay.
But that'll be in there.
Sorry.
No, please, no, it's fine. Okay, so we were saying was there a culture clash?
Yeah, the culture clash, it was it was pretty big. Now there was people that, like I said, they really liked that we had this crazy energy, because, you know, there was
Yeah, I mean, do people work out that hard in art school, Jim, to begin with?
You'd be surprised, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I can
Oh,
imagine
no,
some people
yeah.
would, yeah.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
that's definitely something I've talked about before with people that didn't go to school with me. You know, like it's crazy how like it's very similar. Like the workout mentality is very similar to the art mentality. You know, like there's a focus that's there, there's
Yeah.
a commitment that's
Yeah.
there, and you're constantly, you know, like how do I get better?
Sure,
You know,
sure.
and it's a competitive thing as well. And there were a lot of kids that saw what we were doing and they're like, yeah, man, like, can we play? Like, you know, it's like that kind of thing.
Oh,
And then there were
that's
some
cool.
kids that were like, these guys are fucking bullies. We don't fucking want them in here. And then that's kind of how the strength coach like found out about it. Was people were complaining about it because there's a lot of people that just didn't, you know, they just weren't cool with it.
What year was this? Ballpark?
That was in 2007 to 2009.
I mean, not to make everything so fucking topical, but it's a bit of a different country then, right? I mean,
A little bit.
So I mean, you had a little bit of a. I mean, what was the? I'm just trying to think about the divide, the Civ Mill divide that you see there,
Oh,
and when you're
yeah.
talking about the art, I mean, in the theater world, I would say the theater world is the lagging indicator in all, you know.
Sure.
All sorts of artsy stuff, like long after stuff has been debunked, the theater world is still clinging to it sometimes. And I can't speak with any kind of accuracy about the art world per se, but I do wonder, yeah, like, you know, if there was, what the reaction was and how that went down, and even for you and how you were fitting in. I mean, do you think, to put it a different way, do you think you could have done that now?
I think you'd have an easier time now.
Do you think so?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why?
Well, for instance, I can see through social media, you know, like how it's different now as well. There's a lot more open-mindedness to these types of things.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Especially at the school that I went to, because, you know, there's different channels that they have, you know, like the gym has all these different types of fitness programs to attract people.
Really?
Yep. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's pretty cool.
Wow. But again, that's an outlier for art schools, right? Or is it not?
You know,
You don't know.
I
Right.
haven't,
Yeah.
I'm so removed now.
Yeah, you're out
like,
of the loop. Yeah.
but all I know is like that was one of the reasons why I didn't have many friends in the painting department when I was there. Like the work that I was interested in doing, the things I was doing, it made me different. And I just really did not see eye to eye with many people. Like, you know, it's as simple as, you know, you meet people sometimes and the way someone says hello to you, you might not like them.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
it's like that
right.
type
You
of
just
shit.
know, yeah.
And I rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I was never shy in critiques to tell somebody when I didn't think what they were doing was very good.
I've never thought about this, but is there a personality difference between painters, illustrators, different media, people that gravitate towards different artistic media?
I can only go based off of what I've seen.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, because and the place where I learned that was when I played lacrosse, because all of my teammates were different majors. There was one other painter on my team, and he was like the one of two people I got along with that were painters. And
What was everybody else? Were they sculptors? I mean, do they, like, who generally, like, I know that was a thing, sorry, this is a bit of a digression, but
no.
I read a book once, I can't remember what it was, otherwise I'd reference it, but I remember the woman was talking about writers just aren't sexy. Like, they can write sexy things, but if you meet a writer, they're a fucking nerd, they've been living in their own filth, they're stewing in their heads. She's like, but what did she say? But it's something like, but actors, or yeah, something like that. But no, it was actually artists. It was painters. But painters were, now that's sexy. Like there, you can really strip down and do stuff. So there you go. But I mean, I've never thought of this inside just the art world itself. If there's actually personality types that gravitate towards different media or different forms of expression. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, if that even is a thing, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because with this stuff, there is definitely a different type of mindset for everything. You know, there's those people that
Yeah.
are in this to like get a job.
Yeah.
Then there's those people that go there to be the boss, like, or do their own thing. You know, like I'm
Right.
like creating a
Right.
brand essentially. You know.
So not like say, not to cast aspersions, but like graphic designers, probably you're looking for a job,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you're
absolutely.
not doing it because, I mean, maybe your heart isn't
Well,
it, but you know,
It's funny with that because there are some graphic designers who get really like into like type, you know, and that's
different
one avenue.
strokes.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But I feel like graphic design is one of those things that you can just do so many different things with. That there's a comfort level there, and a lot of them they'll tell you that
Yeah, right.
they're not trying
Right.
to, you know, they're not trying to change the world. They just want to get paid, and that's
Right.
fine.
Right.
Just say what you are.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right. Okay, that was all a long digression that I just want to explore for a second, but culture clash. So with the Rangers in the gym,
Mhm.
what did that lead to?
So that led to us. I got the chance to work out at Hunter a few times because of that, and you know,
Because they're like, no, we'll get in trouble, so you don't have to get in trouble.
So we did that, and it was funny when they would bring us to their house, you know, because there was like a sniffing out. Like people would see Zach and I, and they, you know, they'd be like, "Who are these guys? Why are they here?"
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
But I always felt like more welcome there. It was fucking weird. I can't really describe it either. Because it's one of those places where it's like, here's the proving ground. If you can do this, then you can hang out here.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So
Sure.
it's that thing. Whereas like with the art school, it's like there's just so many bullshit things that fit into everything. Like everyone's motivation for going to the gym is not the same. It's like it is
Sure.
now, like as an adult. You know, like
Sure.
if you go there and you're like a million miles an hour, you're focused, you have this thing you're trying to do, and like somebody's on their fucking phone or like
I hear you. Yeah.
FaceTime talking on the treadmill like an asshole. Like you're an asshole if you do that. But if you say anything, then you take things too seriously. Now I've been told that before, and okay. So I've adjusted my way of thinking. I have to.
Because you need to go to the gym.
Because I need to go to the gym. Exactly. So
and in the city you can't, for people who don't understand this, in the city you can't necessarily be working out in your apartment. Like that gets old very quickly.
Very quickly. We all learned that
Yeah.
in 2020.
Yeah.
But you know, we worked out at Hunter and a few times, and then you know what? Like I just got fucking tired of it. I'm like, I went to this school, I did these things, I'm still getting shit on, still being told what to do all the time. I'm bringing my fucking friends in here, and if I get in trouble, I don't fucking care. So we did.
And did you get in trouble?
No.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because I was smart about it.
Okay, you snuck them in still?
Yeah,
Okay, all right,
yeah.
You just got smarter about how to do
Smarter
it. Okay,
about it.
that goes a long way.
Yeah.
So, what was so now, how are these relationships developing?
Man, you know, so I guess I can talk about each one differently. The relationship I had with, or have, I'm still friends with everybody. With the Rangers was a little bit different than it is with my art school friends, because after I was done with school in 2009, my wife and I moved here, and around the same time they got deployed again. So, you know, there's like an emotional thing. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, like just not from the same planet, like the military guys, and like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and there were moments where I was like, now that we're not around each other all the time, like, am I your friend? Like, are we cool? Because, you know, like,
Right.
there's that whole
Right.
coming back from deployment
Yeah.
phase,
Yeah.
and like, it's an emotional thing, and you, as an outsider, like, you don't know, like, how hard do I push this person? Because if I piss them off, like, what's gonna happen? Like, are we just totally not gonna be friends? Am I gonna make them mad? Like, and when we moved here, that deployment, Rob got killed, so there was also that to deal with. So Mike came back, and you know, things were, you know, like, different. How could they not be? So there was like a phase for a while where I wasn't sure. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give this guy a space, let him fucking figure stuff out. Like, I didn't know like the protocol, like what do you do? You know?
Like how to be friends.
Yeah, and it was definitely tough. Whereas with Zach, he went to Las Vegas, and like I said, he was fighting for a while, and he was doing pretty well, and he decided that when Rob got killed, that was one of the things that made Zach consider joining the military himself.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually he did, and he became a SEAL, and now he works in investment banking, the typical art school path. But I remain so close with both of them. Like, Zach was one of the best men at my wedding. I was one of the best men at his, and he even spoke at my father's funeral.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
that's my brother,
Wow.
Mike, we are still close. We talk all the time. Like, he called me a bunch while my dad was in the hospital. Like, we're all close still. Like, we go on trips together. I'm a fortunate guy to be 43 and have like this friend circle that I have. In addition to those
don't have
guys,
friends.
no, yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's other guys from that time period of my life. Like, we all go on trips together. We, obviously now with how everything works, there's a huge text thread that we all talk shit to each other on.
Right. Right.
The GIFs,
Right,
all those things. So.
There's probably I don't know, there might not be a way for you to answer this, but I'll just ask it anyway. Why do you think they are friends with you?
That's a good question, because I'm not the easiest person to get along with.
And it just seems, that they're not artists, right?
Not anymore. Well,
or
not
were they?
professionally.
Okay. Was there a bond over the art? Was that ever part of the friendship?
Zach went to school with me.
Zach,
so yes.
obviously, but in
Mike and Rob, it's funny because they were all a part of my thesis work with the tire stuff. They were the other guys with the tires.
Okay.
So, and Mike is like, he's he's tatted up. Like, he loves art. He does.
Yeah.
He's been a huge fan of it his whole life. He, so it's not, that one's not tough. They're friends with me because I'm the most persistent asshole that you have ever met in your life. And I do my best to keep my friend group together because I know how special it is. And it's super important to me because these people, like, effectively, like, they all changed my life. And so many people go through these experiences, and yeah, you're like peripherally friends with somebody on Facebook and Instagram, but like I love these people. Like, they are my family, and I am not going to I'm not going to let them go because they have kids or they get married or whatever, how old school thought processes used to be. Fuck that, man. Like, I love these guys.
So on the flip side, why did you attach to them in ways did you attach to other people the same way?
No.
Or why?
Because there were qualities that they have that I respected greatly, and things that they have that I wanted too, iron sharpens iron. Athletically, some of them could do shit I could never do. And I'm like, I want to be around that dude because I want to be more like that in certain, other areas too. School, some of these guys, my two roommates that I had in undergrad, same thing. They're my brothers. One of them was the captain of our lacrosse team, and he's the greatest leader to this day that I have ever seen in my entire life. I played sports, like I said, all through high school and college, and his leadership, acumen, I saw that in him, and I wanted to be more like that. And he, I didn't, like I said, I didn't play lacrosse until I got to school, right? He, every single day after practice in the beginning, he stayed after to teach me how to play. Yeah. He invested in it. And that's, to me, that meant the world. I would do anything for that guy.
I have a bad habit of trying to play amateur psychiatrist. I don't try to. Somebody just naturally thinks this way.
It's all right.
But do you think Do you think you would have bonded and there would have been that connection if you hadn't been the fat kid growing up? Like that there was like a newfound, for lack of a better word, manhood
Yeah.
that came about, and because I feel like when you bloom late, you become evangelical about that new transformation in ways that people would take it for granted if they had it their whole lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. This is, like I'm saying, like going to that school changed my entire life.
Wow.
It really did.
Did you ever think about joining the military?
Yeah. Absolutely.
When?
When I started working out with the guys, you know.
Walk through the thought process into how it didn't happen and why it didn't happen.
That's a really short one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I consulted with Mike about it a lot when I was in grad school. I'm like, hey man, I thought about it, and he's like, if you don't 100% want to do this, do not do it. And I was like, nope, I don't want to do it. And I thought back on all the arguments and fights I always had with coaches and bosses and all that stuff, and like
authority.
Authority, like no.
Yeah.
And if I think something's stupid and like everyone's doing it, I'm gonna either get my ass kicked or I'm gonna something bad's gonna happen to me.
Yep.
So no, I don't belong here.
Did that cinch it up? Were you at peace with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't want to gloss over Rob's death. So let me just throw that out there. What did that mean for you? How much did that hit?
It's crazy to think back on that stuff, because this whole body of work has like come full circle for me. I remember the phone call that I got when it happened. Like Zach called me because he was still in Savannah at the time, because he was a little bit behind me with school. So at the time, the girl that Mike was dating had found Zach, because we all worked at this bar together. Another funny like aspect of all this, security guys from an art school.
You were all bouncing?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Zach was like the head like bartender and bouncer. He did everything. Dude's like a Swiss Army knife. Anyway, he called me and told me that she had like found him and told him. It was like, hey man, I got something bad to tell you, and I immediately I knew exactly what was gonna come out of his mouth, and it was.
Did you know it was gonna be Rob?
No, because at first I thought it was Mike.
Okay.
And he said no, it wasn't Mike, and I was like, okay. He was like, it was Rob, and like when I met them, I knew even then, like I wanted to one day make work about them. And it's fucking crazy that like all those years later, this happened, and then it was, okay, I want that needs to be a piece in whatever this work is gonna look like whenever I do it. But I have enough respect for everything that I also understand that I need to be at a certain place in my career before I try to tackle some shit like this, because there's a lot of moving pieces.
Explain that. Why?
Because I want the work. There are so many different elements that are important to the success of this work that made it worth doing to me. And it wasn't just making a painting. So
where did you need to be in your career to execute that? What was the trigger?
I just needed more experience under my belt, showing work, having success, making more of a name for myself, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not a military person.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like I needed more life experience first too, and to better figure out like what my work needed to look like as well.
Did you not feel at the top of your game as an artist? Did you feel like you still were climbing the mountain?
It's weird, because I've always felt I'm confident with what.
Right, it seems that way.
I don't lack the confidence. I just wanted to work a little bit more to build more of like a base of like people that knew who I was,
So that people would appreciate the work more just on the customer side.
Yeah.
But was that it, or was it skill-wise you felt like there was something else that had to develop still with you?
I just didn't want to shoot my shot and have it not go anywhere.
Okay. But again, because of your talent, or because of your skill, I should say, not talent, but your skill, or because the market or the public wouldn't fully get it yet.
Yeah, fuck that. It's not because of my skill. My skill is
There you go.
fucking man.
Okay.
It's,
So it was the public.
Yeah.
You're like, I need to be enough of a name. I need
Yeah.
to have enough of a rep
Yeah.
for the public to appreciate this.
Yep. And because I knew it was going to be an uphill battle, because you also have to think about the art world as a whole. How do they view the military? How are they looking at these things? That's like, so when I say like there's all these moving pieces involved, the work itself, I am trying to humanize their deployment story experiences. This is not war porn. I'm not just painting like Washington crossing the Delaware.
Right.
That's not what this is.
Right. Which has its place.
I love that painting.
But
it's
yeah,
one of my favorites.
but yeah, they did it. Right. Yeah. When did Rob die? What year was that?
2009.
Okay. I meant to ask, when this friendship started to happen, did you notice you were becoming more aware of the wars? Did that naturally? Were you already tracking, like, oh yeah, we're in Afghanistan, yeah, we're doing this, yeah, I know what Rangers are. Like, was that even in your lexicon, or did you just start to get hit to it when you became friends with them?
Yeah, I just got hit to it. I didn't really make it a point. Like, everybody knows military people, or like has them in their family, and it was kind of funny too.
Not everybody, but yeah, less and less. But yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
And even more so, like with my dad, you know, it was like one of those things. Like that was another connection. It's like, hey, Dad, look who I'm fucking working out with. This is fucking awesome. And he's like, you're working out with Rangers? And I'm like, yeah, you know, because it was already fucking crazy enough for me to come home the first time and be like, Dad, I'm playing lacrosse in college now. And he was like, the fuck are you talking about? You know, but
yeah. How quickly after you met them did you know you wanted to incorporate them into your art?
Oh man, almost immediately.
Really?
Yeah. Because it would be a huge, that's a huge miss. Like, my work is all about the story, and who has better stories than these guys?
And was this your first real time intersecting with military folks in any meaningful way?
No, because
no. All right. Did you have them in your family?
Oh, well, besides
your
dad,
yeah.
Both of my grandparents or grandfathers, and I had some friends like there's a bunch of friends I went to high school with.
But you noticed, and I hear myself, and it sounds like I'm trying to be like nudging you towards this answer, and I'm not. I'm just trying to make sure I encapsulate it fully. Was it making you more, I guess, aware of stuff? And let me give you some context. Like, for me, I remember when I came back to the East Coast in 2012, I remember I was at church and somebody was busy telling, like, it was like after church, like people were milling about, and somebody was telling their kid, like, well, we're not in Afghanistan anymore. I was like, New Yorkers, right? Yeah, good worldview, So I was like, are you fucking, like, but it was amazing to me that I was like, but it talked about families that didn't have anybody in the military. It was just complete spaced out, like you're not tracking anything that's happening there. So for you, did you notice like suddenly, you're pinging on more current events? When people say Afghanistan, it means something, or Iraq, it means something more.
Yeah. Fuck, of course. And then even more so when Zach decided to join the Navy. It's like,
did he talk to you before he went? Did he tell you he was going to do it?
Yeah.
What did you think?
He's that dude.
Did you know he was going to make it the whole way? Did you?
Fuck yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. Because some people I'm sure would have, probably doubted him. I never did. I know that guy.
When he did make it, were you just kind of like shrugging the shoulders, like, yeah, of course he fucking did? Or was there some sort of, euphoria is not the right word, but was there some sort of like bias confirmation where it's like, yeah, fucking awesome, that's great, like kind of your friend pack is,
I was so happy for him.
Yeah.
Because he went through some serious shit to get there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I was so happy for him. I still am.
So, where did Rob die?
So they actually made an episode about this on a show called The Warfighters.
Okay.
Mike was he worked on the show, and it was Operation Breton. in Afghanistan.
Okay. I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
there were a lot of those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you watch it? Did you watch the episode?
Yeah. And it's funny because through Mike and that show that he worked on, I was able to meet somebody else that I painted as well.
Okay. So I do want to ask about our buddy Mike Kelvington here in a second. Before I do, had you painted them already? Had you started to paint them, like with them as subject matter?
No, actually that came about, funny enough, at Zach's wedding. I hadn't spoke to Mike in a while. It had been a long time for us, because like I said, I really wasn't sure like where I stood with him. Like,
yeah.
we went through a funny patch. And then at Zach's wedding, I got married the year before that, and then like I said, I didn't. This is one of the only regrets that I have in my entire life, and I'm glad I'm saying this so that it's documented. I didn't invite Mike to my wedding because I wasn't sure, like I said, like where I stood with him. We were in a weird spot. So he saw me at Zach's wedding, and it was just like instantly like I was nervous because I wasn't sure how to act, and he was just like, so you got married, huh? Like my invitation get lost in the mail. And I was like, fuck, motherfucker. And like, we talked about everything like really quickly, and then we immediately just fell back right into the same place we were, like how we were in Savannah. And it was so hard to me. Like I have brought this up to him so many times about it, and I feel fucking terrible about it to this day, but I just didn't know how to deal with it,
Of course. But so
But
at
I
the
did-
wedding, then did you decide to start?
at the wedding, I pitched the whole thing to him. It was like this emotional, full circle like roller coaster with all of them, and I was like, yeah, man. So remember that picture of you guys, the repatriation ceremony? Like, would you be okay if I painted that? And he was like, fuck yeah, paint it. I was like, okay, that was easy. So.
Did you have the idea right then at the spur of the moment, or had you been thinking about it already?
Oh, I've been thinking about it for a long time.
Really?
I just, like I said, like there was only really one thing that I knew that I could paint, and one painting is not enough for a body of work.
Yeah.
So that, decision then took me down this path of like, well, Zach is a SEAL. He's got all these experiences. He has SEAL friends. Mike has all these Ranger friends. Like, they all have these crazy stories. I'm an artist, like if someone's gonna do something about this, it needs to be me. So here we are. And then it's crazy, how things just evolved, and like I kept meeting more people, and it is what it is now.
What was the how much of this was thought out? Did you already know generally where you wanted to go with this? You just needed to know the subjects that you were going to be painting and the people and meet them?
No.
So it was developing as you met each person?
Yeah, it totally did.
Okay.
And the aesthetic as well. Like I did the repatriation ceremony for Rob first. And then I met Mike Kelvington, and I started a study, like a preliminary study for his painting. And I just, it's crazy. Like I've talked to him about this a million times, and I'm very happy that he's a patient man as well. Cause I started that, and I just got to this place where I was like, fuck, like this work is not good enough. It needs to be better. So I did the study for his painting. I put the work down for a while, and I did some other stuff, and I thought about it, like, how does this work need to look? How does it need to feel? What am I trying to convey? Like, what's the fucking why here? Like, why are people going to care about this? And my wife and I went to Paris, and we were at a museum, and I saw this collection of, do you know who Francis Bacon is?
Yeah, sure.
I saw this fucking amazing show of Francis Bacon's work, and there were all these old interviews in black and white with him where he was talking about, I decide what the viewer sees, I decide like what's important, And then I thought more about, you know, all these other things, the other elements, like how aesthetically, like how does this need to, going back to this again, like how does this need to look? What's the message? How does it feel? Like these are all memories. Some of them are clear, some of them are not, some of them are disappearing. Like there's all these things. It's not going to be a crystal clear image. I want abstract stuff. I want real stuff. I want you to see the process of how I draw everything. I want all of these things at one time. And it has to, you have to have like this emotional feeling. On top of that, there also has to be this like component of the work where you hear the soldiers tell the story behind the work, because in humanizing everything, I want you to make a connection with the person. It's important for you to hear their voice and their side of like everything and what you're looking at. They went through this experience, and this work is nothing without them. So they're just as big of a huge, you know, component of this as the paintings are.
Let's set the stage then. How did you meet Mike?
So when there was at Princeton, there was a screening of the Warfighters show that Mike had worked on, Bummer, and Kelvington I think he was responsible for getting it there, and we went and we watched it, and then you know there was the Q&A session with the audience, which I found to be kind of fun, because there were those people who were very opposed to the military and all these things, and I still have to tip my hat to my friends. Like they were cool the whole time. They were terrific spokespeople for all of this stuff for the show, and they kept a level head, and they were able to get through all of the tough like questions about war and all that shit. And after the presentation was over, we all we hung out for a little while afterwards, and I got to talking to Kelvington, and he was telling me about this story that he experienced with his translator, and hearing that, I was just blown away. I'm like, I cannot fucking believe I know people that have been through shit like this. And
why don't you do you mind summing it up just for everybody?
Yeah, sure. He had a translator that followed him around on one of his deployments, and long story short, the bad guys found out and they killed him, and he was blown up due to lack of better. And Mike collected his body and brought it back to where they were staying to bring him back to his family and friends. And when he delivered the body, everybody like surrounded him, and Mike was praying for the person, the translator, OG, that's what he refers to him as. And there was a photographer that took a picture of Mike doing that. And just, it's so crazy. Like, I was in school learning how to paint when he was doing stuff like that. Yeah. I think about stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
These are the paths that we've all chosen to go down.
Yeah. But obviously, a lot of that dies in silence, and that's let's not be said. That's what you're doing, right? Is you're bringing to light things that otherwise would be lost and go down the memory hole.
And that sucks.
It does suck, but thank God you're there to capture it, and thank God others are, and those that whether they come from the veteran community or the veteran adjacent community, there are those that appreciate it and are able to bring that to light. How long did it take you to do this piece?
So the study, it took I want to say about a month.
Okay.
And then that's not the study though. That's the end result. Yeah, right. That was about.
So what were you tell about the study? So let me understand the process better. What does that mean then?
So classically,
okay,
the way an artist, like Da Vinci would work, he would make a drawing of the thing he wanted to paint, so he could understand the forms and shapes better. So when you see all those old school drawings, charcoal, Conte, those types of things, those are all just preliminary sketches. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I did one of those, and when I got done with it, I was like, all right, this needs to be better, because this sucks and I'm not happy with it.
What didn't you like about it?
I didn't like the colors. I didn't like the size that it was. And with this work too, there's a theme, you know, like red, white, and blue shades, obviously. It might not be so obvious to some people. But that's the painting of him has a little bit more color too. I don't know why I chose it. Sometimes I don't know the answer. I added a little bit more color into his uniform and his skin tone. A lot of times I like the black and white, but with him, there was just something about it that I wanted to add more into it.
So him kneeling is from the picture,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
The rest of it, I mean, remind me, how much of this is based on photographs and how much of this was your design, your imagination?
Well, the placement of the figures is obviously from the photograph because I wasn't there.
Sure.
But you know, the details and the realism of Mike, I had to use the photograph for that. And
Jenny, can we get the camera and just you don't have to worry about us. But while Mitch is talking, if we can just see it, you can detach it. You can detach the phone too. Everybody can see Jenny on it. It's not a secret. Jenny, you can thread it back through. Just walking around.
so yeah, the detail in him, you know, it's a little bit more realistic. But going back to the elements of all of the work, like this is a memory, you know, it can't all be crystal clear. I wanted to just, you know, kind of touch on some of the people in the background because he was surrounded by people, but I didn't want to focus on everyone and take away from the actual bag.
Yeah.
And him. There's just so many moving pieces, like the abstract stuff. It's like a fading memory. The line work, it's all directional. All of my work, it's got the free flowing contour line. So basically it's one continuous line in all of my work. I like to start with this like abstract shaping and then, you know, constantly refining things over time. And I like to leave the process revealed so you can see how I did this. Like you can tell that there's like a ghost of him where I first started. Yeah. And that's why I left the patch there. Like I wanted you to know that, like, you know, you don't get everything right on the first take. That's not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. What was Mike's reaction when he saw it?
He was really happy, and I'm not sure if he really knew how to react, you know?
Yeah.
He's so good at like not reacting to stuff. Yeah. He's a pro.
Yeah.
And you can tell that's got to be like military training stuff.
I think it's also just trippy. AJ, you can keep it out because we're gonna go walk around here in a second. I think
I can't flip it though.
that's fine. I mean, you can
You're
keep it
fine
on
with
us. You can keep it on us, and then we'll go to the other paintings here in a sec. And I mean, make yourself comfortable too.
I'm comfortable.
There you go.
I'm good, yeah.
But I mean, I think that's also difficult to process.
Oh yeah.
Your reaction to your own thing. I think a lot of that is sometimes you're just gonna blank canvas because like I don't know how to react. You know, it's like it's a weird thing. I think to pick up. Let's move to these other pieces. So, what was next chronologically?
Chronologically, the painting of that boy.
Oh, really?
Waving, yeah.
Okay.
I was working on that one and the battlefield cross painting at the exact same time. The one that's leaning
Right.
against the door.
So, where did they come from?
So the boy is from one of Zach's deployments. He was a boy that was living outside of the base where they were. And him and his group of friends used to hang out outside the base every day, and they would wave at Zach and everybody when they were, you know, going into the city. And Zach was telling me that they would give them like bottles of water and candy and all types of stuff. And it was kind of like they looked at them like they were like, you know, heroes, like they were the good guys coming to save us essentially. And it was funny because Zach always says, like, he's like, I have no idea like where the fuck this kid was going every day, like where did he go?
Right,
You have
right.
no idea.
Yeah.
so it, that resonated a lot with me because I'm only seeing it from the civilian standpoint. Like there's this little kid that's grown up in nothing and knows nothing besides the way that this is.
Yeah.
And that's going back again, like the humanistic side to all of this. I'm trying to humanize this stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Zach was taking pictures while he's over there?
Yeah.
Is that where it came from?
Yeah.
I should ask, did you notice changes with Zach? Since you've known him as a civilian and then seen him go through that, could you detect anything? Was there any change that you could pick up?
He's such a tough bastard. I don't know. I feel like he just got sharper, if anything.
Okay.
Nothing bad. I also feel like some of it also is just life and growing up.
Post deployment, I mean, you can kind of see a little bit more age around the eyes.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
absolutely.
that.
Yeah. Absolutely. He also has all of that fight experience too. So
That's
those
true.
things
Yeah,
come
yeah,
into
yeah.
play.
Yeah, absolutely.
His experiences are unlike anybody else's I've ever known.
Sure. What was it? So, sorry, the battle cross.
It's behind.
Where is it?
Right there.
Oh, there. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, there we go. Yeah. So if you want to lean this one down. Yeah. Okay, so the battle cross, where did that go?
So that's when I went out to San Diego to see Zach for a little bit, and I remember going to the base with him there. They had one of those in a glass case. And at the time, like, no one had explained to me what it is, but I really don't think you need explanation to know what that is. And I had seen the imagery several times before, and I wanted to make one piece about that specific thing, because it's, that's a huge talking point.
Yeah.
And the symbolism behind it is enormous as well. So I found a couple of images to work from for that one. And one of the things that I really worked into that as well, as I have tried in a lot of the other pieces, is to use gold leaf. That's a nod to my mentor, because he used to put gold leaf in his paintings.
Gotcha.
And it's a hard thing to get in without it looking like kitschy or
Ostentatious.
yeah,
or something.
just
It's over the top.
goofy.
Yeah.
Like, why is that there?
Yeah.
And it's real gold leaf too. It's not foil.
Really?
So it's kind of pricey. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
With all these, where were they going? What were you doing with them? So once they were done, did you have
Oh no.
a gallery? Did you have anything? Did you have any space to display them? What were you doing with them?
So I'm in the planning phase now. I had to make the work in order to pitch the work, and then there's a whole other
So these have never been publicly shown.
no.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So I started it in 2016. Here we are. I got one more piece to make. And I'm just finishing up that one that's behind you right now. That's actually Zach's locker from when he was over there.
Okay.
So,
And so, how do you know you have one more piece to make? How do you know how long or how short this series needed to be?
it's a feeling.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's a full circle thing too, like I was saying early on in the beginning. Like the first painting was about Rob. And it's not, the last one's not global war on terror related, but it's about my dad. That's where everything needs to end.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Of course.
Yep.
Okay. We need to cover these
Oh,
because
yeah.
we can't ignore this.
Sure.
So, yeah, walk us through.
All right. So it's a triptych, a 3-panel painting. This is an overview of the whole global war on terror. It's a collection of different images that I have gotten from different people, not just, it's Rangers, it's SEALs, and Marine Raiders. And there are, obviously there's people, there's, so from what I understand, there's like Thanksgiving and Christmas that's spent out there. That's a place setting for Thanksgiving for the people that were lost on deployment.
Right.
I saw that and I was like, that's That's fucking awesome. And you know, obviously the Christmas decorations, because you're not at home with your family. The coloring book images and drawings that some of the guys got sent by, you know, their kids or family members. And then, you know, there
Was this based on anything you actually saw, or was that you going back to your
oh no,
Ninja Turtle?
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to
Trippy,
include it.
right? Yeah,
like this
yeah.
fucking kid like drew a Ninja Turtle, like this
Fucking
has to go
crazy.
in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it reminded me of that as well. There's, like I said, going back stylistically, like I tried to throw everything that I know how to do at this. I even went as far as to include pop art, and that's with the toy soldiers at the top. Now that's like a stylistic thing. I knew that something needed to be there,
Yeah.
but to push this further, it was just that thing that was missing. And I even added the gold leaf in the Bible. So pages, yeah. So this one really has everything. And so I was juggling a project for the 1st Ranger Battalion. I was painting a memorial for their killed in action and killed in training Rangers that they've lost. And I was painting this at the same time.
So this was a whole separate series. This was not one. So that was a whole separate little commission.
The portraits?
Yeah.
Yeah, the portraits were a completely separate project. Some people don't realize that.
Yeah.
They think that was all the same.
Okay.
So that was a completely separate thing. I was doing that for them while painting this work as a part of all of these pieces.
Okay.
So this painting took a little bit over 2 years to make.
Wow.
So the work is there. The scarf is obviously the most labor-intensive component of this, and it mimics the line work that you see in a lot of the other pieces. There's like this dynamic S-curve that makes your eye go through.
Interesting.
So everything is well thought out. I try my best.
You know, this is. So are the portraits part of the same series then? Do you see them as being part of the same series?
Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah. This is all.
So it's all interconnected. Tell me about the portraits then.
So
how did you choose who didn't make the cut? Like you said, like put it
Yeah.
that way.
This is the hardest question to answer because a lot of people have asked me that.
Oh right.
And it was, you know, there's a combination of a lot of things. Decisions have to be made. Tough ones have to be made. Like, you just have to fucking make the decision and stand behind it.
Right.
I started with the Navy guys first, and you know, early on, I didn't know that many people, so I just did a lot of researching online.
Yeah.
I did some reading. I found guys who I thought their story, you know, resonated with me for some reason or another. And originally, the idea for this entire body of work was for it to be displayed like an American flag. That's why the colors are what they are.
Got you.
But the size of all of these things, and then adding in the tech part of it, hearing the voices and all that stuff, tell the stories, impossible. It's not impossible, but it would be really tough to find the right place for this to adequately experience it. So I put out a call on social media once I got started on this. You know, if anybody has friends, family members, whoever, and they would like for me to paint the portrait as a part of this piece for this collection, send me their information. And that really, really started the ball rolling. And funny enough, because I did this piece, that was how the guys at the 1st Battalion found out about the work I could do, because they saw it on social media.
So this piece and the work you did for First Bat kind of did have a synergy. There was some connectivity that allowed it to birth.
Because that, you know, that experience I had painting the portraits for 1st Battalion, like, that introduced me to so many people, and I heard so many more stories, and it was one of those things where I can't paint about everybody, because then I would be doing this for the rest of my life.
Right.
And
right.
I don't have time.
Well, you need to do representation.
Yeah.
Stuff that covers.
And there was, throughout all the conversations I've had with anybody, no matter what branch they were in, no matter what they did, where they were, the one thing that I kept hearing about was PTSD. And it was this crazy fucking thing, because everybody has experienced it, dealt with it, know someone that succumbed to it, and not everybody is okay with talking about it. And again, the civilian thing, like, I have to understand my place in all this, and there's no pushing. And like, if someone wants to talk about it, cool, I will listen. I'm one of the best listeners ever. But I kept hearing this over and over again, and it pushed me to want to make a piece just about that. And since I had already done all of these guys and girls portraits for that piece for this collection, I wanted to make one piece about PTSD with portraits as well, but represent them in an incomplete way. That's why the PTSD piece, those portraits, are incomplete for the incomplete lives that those guys had lived. And also the goal, like, I was looking at the numbers about how many people succumb to it per day. And that number, depending on who you ask, is a different number. Everyone has a different take.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've dealt, obviously.
Yeah, you can see my eye rolling.
Yes.
I mean, I have, as folks on this podcast, I think, probably know by now. Yeah. I mean, it is, well, I won't make it about my point of view on it, but yes.
No,
well, it's kind of like the way people talk about gun violence now. It's like, it's such a broad term. That doesn't identify a problem. It's like, oh, okay, there's a difference between somebody that had an accidental discharge and killed themselves and a gang member that shoots somebody, or a school shooting. Those are all different things. If you call it all gun violence, then we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. It's kind of the same way with veteran suicide and PTS. To just call it, oh, well, it's another veteran suicide. Okay, maybe. Was it a Cold War veteran that was homeless in a homeless shelter and was on drugs? That's a different death than somebody that just got out of the military and is struggling with survivor's guilt or something like that and blows their brains out. Those are two very different things. So to accurately go, well, we got to stop veteran suicide. Okay, what's the root cause? It's different. It depends who we're talking about. And that's my problem, is that nobody likes to talk the specifics. It's just, oh, we're against veteran suicide. Right, and I'm in favor of sunshine, right? That's kind of obvious statements. But it's like, what does that actually mean? And what's the problem? What's the solution? And this is, I don't think I'm starting any fires by saying this. I'm also very concerned about the amount of grift that goes into PTS now, where, especially with the wars winding down temporarily for the next 10 minutes. Fucking assholes. That's what happens when you pull out of Afghanistan. The whole fucking world goes to shit. But anyway, that's a different top podcast episode. But my concern is now there's so many. If any more organizations, nonprofits pop up to fight PTS, really, we don't have enough of those yet, and we're chasing the money. I'm not trying to put you on the spot by you don't have to respond to any of that, but that's sorry, I just went off on a tangent there. So there you go. Yeah. Anyway, there's that. But to your point, making it back to the subject matter. So I mean, were these done then with an eye towards capturing kind of the reality of PTS and humanizing what this the post-deployment face, if you will.
Yeah, well, some of these guys, that was actually, they were on a deployment when these pictures were taken.
Right.
Because one thing that people don't understand also is, like, with portraits, or they probably do, but no one really talks about it. It's like, if you're painting someone's portrait, it either fucking looks like them or it doesn't. And what's your goal? Like, I always hate when you see somebody that is a portrait painter, and it's like, cool, but that doesn't fucking look like the person.
Yeah.
I get, like, the representation stuff, but if I'm trying to say that I painted this person, it better fucking look like them, because I know at the end of the day, like, one of their family members is probably going to see this.
That's the big difference.
Yes.
Right? Because you can internalize and go, well, through my lens, they look like this.
Yeah, great.
And that's adorable when it's like
a
rich person that asks you to do their portrait. But when it's somebody that might have died, or somebody that, somewhere you're talking about family members having to recognize that person and wanting to relate to it.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an obligation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But, like how you're saying too, with all the PTSD stuff, I selected the number 24 as the number of portraits I wanted to do, right? So I put the call out for that piece. I quickly got some responses. I even got a friend that was in Special Forces in Australia And like, I was like, this is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
of course I'll paint these guys.
You're right. Sure.
They were fighting with us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the same shit, just in
Yeah.
a different place. So anyway, there were 12 names that I never got. And I know people that know people, but I'm not going to push you to tell me names. Like, I'm not doing that. I am the third party person, and I feel like with that piece, it's more powerful to leave some of those spots blank because of that tough time that we still have talking about these things. And to your point as well, as the guy that paints the pictures and puts the stuff out there are people who, when I read this stuff, I never engage in stupid conversations because there's no winning on social media.
Oh,
But the dumb shit that I've heard, it fucking makes me so angry. And like, I get it. Like, I'm not curing anything with this. What I'm doing is bringing these stories to light to hopefully connect people, inspire conversation, and, educate people on the realities of these things. That's my role.
Right.
I'm not saying that I'm fixing any of these things or I have the solution to the problem. And there's just like so many dumb comments that people make about stuff like, do you think before you push enter? Like,
Listen, I couldn't agree more. One of the thoughts that comes to my mind is, I think it was Dylan that said, the greatest thing an artist can do is inspire. And I've thought about that a lot because initially I was like underwhelmed by that. I was like, really? That's the best thing you can do is inspire? And the more I've thought about that, the more I'm like, what else? I mean, and that has a healing property in it. How does that strike you? Do you think that's true? And B, does it relate to that? What would you say is the takeaway for you with this? Or not the takeaway for you, that's not the right word. Not the right phrase. What do you want it to do to people?
one of the most important things that I want it to do is I want it to bring people. I want it to connect people, and I want it to, obviously, I have military people in mind, but I also want to bring all these different people from different places together. It has to be civilians, the art community, and you know what, like, people who aren't supportive of the military,
Right.
And that's the important part of this. Like, these are fucking people like everybody else, and that's one of the things. I don't know, like, the story has to be the star. You have to hear the stories, and until that happens, like, you're just going to be this angry person that doesn't like the military for whatever your political beliefs are, or whatever the case may be. Like, I separate myself from all of that shit. I try to stay in the middle of everything because that's my role as an artist. Like, I'm supposed to be the visual timekeeper for the time period that I was living, and I don't take myself so seriously, but I take my work fucking seriously.
Totally. Is there value? I'm gonna ask you a leading question. Is there a value in striving to be something of the poet laureate or artist laureate for a type of, I use this word advisedly, heroicism, or I don't want to say masculinity because there's certainly women depicted here, but but a certain kind of, it seems like a recurring theme in your life has been, from powerlifting to, to the art, that there's a constant, and I relate to that, the need to juxtapose the male, inherently masculine desire for a noble fight. It's a cause worth exerting yourself even to the point of death for. I feel like that's a masculine trait. Doesn't mean women don't have it. Just means I think it's an inherently masculine trait to do that. But to be a poet laureate to that, because if you don't honor it and show it, and even at the risk of sounding political, glorify it to some degree, there's not enough people won't understand and embrace it willingly, or as willingly as maybe society needs them to. Does that kind of make sense? And I'm just wondering, I'm my takeaway, almost like the tagline that I'm seeing in my mind. We don't do taglines for the podcast, but in my mind, I'm almost like, I feel like there's a degree of you that is almost like a poet laureate for the masculine, the heroic, that aggressiveness, confidence, persistence that you've talked about personally. You seek out subjects that are going to inspire that in others, or bring that out in yourself and exert yourself in that cause. Am I overreading that?
No. Not at all. There's a struggle that I know that I have with that kind of stuff. And when I say that, I mean, like with movies, right? I never liked the fucking good guy. I like the bad guy a lot. And sometimes that that fucks with me, because even my role when I played sports, when I was playing lacrosse in school, I was like the enforcer guy. I wasn't the fucking hero. My goal was to stop somebody that was trying to score a goal. That was my job. And I typically don't like the hero because of like the fucking like, my wife is probably gonna be like, I can't believe you said that. Just the fucking like Boy Scout mentality. I hate that shit. But I also know that with military stuff, a lot of guys, they are that person, you know, like they are very much the hero. And there are things about that are inspiring to me, because they are that person that is going to show up every single day. They are going to fight until the fucking end. And that's where I get inspiration from stuff like that. Because I love it. Like dying for the cause. What else is there? You know, what was your life about?
Yeah. 100%.
You just went to work
Yeah.
every day?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think, I mean, just to kind of round out my comments on this, or my thoughts on this, I think that's also the value, if I'm reading this right, of what you're doing, is that sometimes that needs a bullhorn. Sometimes, because not everybody in the military has given it their all and died for it. I mean, there's plenty of instances of cowardice. I mean, a lot of folks that struggle with survivor's guilt or other things, you know, could I have done more? Is there something else? That's an ache in the community of like, I wasn't, everybody that's like a badass, you talk to them and they go, yeah, but I'm not this guy. This guy was the badass. You talk to that guy's like, no, this guy was the badass, not me, right? And it's constant, like, it's never enough. But what your art does is it glorifies the traits, I'm finding, just being around it, that one should aspire to if you're in a life or death business, and hopefully that has a trickle down effect in the rest of your life. That even if it's not a life or death business, you fucking live on fire. Yeah. I mean, nothing that you're doing here is half-assed. You're not giving any ode to the normal. It seems like you traffic in the exceptional and in understanding, reading into it, illuminating, glorifying the exceptional. And it could be exceptional struggle, it could be exceptional hardship, you know, but you know, it wasn't the face of a little kid in Kansas. And there are a lot of moving faces of little kids in Kansas. That's nothing wrong with that. But that's not what you gravitate towards. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
no, you're right. I mean, that's also what I mean, like with the whole Boy Scout thing too. It's more of like a mindset, I guess, and that's when the war porn thing happens. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, do that. Like
You're not trying to be
Struggle.
propagandistic.
No.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Like, if we were just doing two-dimensional propaganda,
Yeah.
yes,
Like
that's something
equestrian
else.
monuments and
Right,
that goofy
right,
shit.
right.
I
And
love
there's
good
something to
statues.
that. Yeah, there's something. I mean, I can appreciate propaganda. I mean,
Yeah.
propaganda is amoral. Like, depends who it is. Is it, the Soviet Union, or is it, us? Yeah, there's a big difference. But that also is a two-dimensional or more two-dimensional thing. You're talking about something that you are trying to make everything very three-dimensional and bring a sense of humanity to it, right? What is the title of all this, of this display, or this installation?
Wish you were here.
The obvious question, why?
Because there's it's all the people that see this work and wish that somebody they knew could have seen it. And for me, it's like my dad.
Yeah. How much of this did you see?
He saw. I was actually painting the PTSD piece in his hospital room, so he saw me painting until he died.
Did he say anything about it?
He couldn't. So I made sure he saw it though. He nodded his head. He smiled. So he knew what was going on.
How close are you to finishing up the piece about him?
I'm gonna start it in a couple days.
Wow.
Yeah. I got something that I should probably show you that's a part of it too.
Sure.
I don't know if artists are supposed to do this kind of thing before we start pieces. So when I was home, going through his the discharge papers and all those things I was talking about before.
Yeah, Jay, you can take it off.
We found all of his old medals. That's how I know about him being an E5 and all that stuff. The patches, the spare patches that he had from his uniform. So he's there's a certificate he got from that for the marksman thing. And then I found a whole bunch of spare name badges. So,
and I saw there was some metal over there.
Oh yeah,
that he had too, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't incorporate that in the piece, but so yeah. And again, these are things that he got, and he never talked about this with me ever. Oh. This is the first time I've ever seen these. It was after he passed away. All of these things that he had.
Wow. Yeah. Gotta say again, I'm not great on badges and ribbons, but yeah, I mean he's got some stuff. I mean, the fact that you've never seen this, I think, is the most overpowering to me. That's,
yeah.
I mean, it's a legacy. It's a part of his leg. It doesn't. Anybody. It does this. Doesn't matter for how long. It leaves a mark, and to not have known that and been able to talk about it. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And you're going to incorporate this stuff?
So I want to sew some of these patches onto the painting, because one thing I've learned along the way now is you can't take this shit with you.
Yeah, right.
I don't have kids either, and I don't plan on having them ever. So I want my dad's story to live on forever. And this is how I'm going to do it.
Do you already know what the piece is going to look like? Do you have a design ready?
Yeah.
Concept?
Yeah. I do. Yeah. It's there. I don't want to.
No, you don't have to talk
say
about
that
it. No.
Too much there.
But yeah, but you know where you're going with it already.
Oh yeah.
what's the wet dream? What happens with all this stuff?
So I have recently completed a deck for an overview of the exhibit itself, and I've begun reaching out to some military museums and some other spaces like institutions. I want this work to get the proper place, and I've also, obviously, I'm an independent artist. I have been reaching out to a lot of the people that have given me, stories to paint about as well, to help talk to people who are in places where they could potentially help, because this is a huge undertaking, and I thought that painting was going to be the tough part. Painting is the fucking easy part. It's the second part that's
Getting it out there.
that's really hard.
Yeah.
I've done my own exhibits in the past with great success. I've done crowdsourcing, and I don't want to do that. To complete this project, it's kind of it's a heavy undertaking financially as well. So there's some some need.
What? Yeah.
So with the storytelling aspect, the voices of the soldiers, each piece is going to have an animation that accompanies it. And what would happen is the viewer would stand, like there would be like a monitor in front of each piece. You would see the animation of the painting coming together, and as the painting comes together through an animation, that's where the soldier's story is heard. And like a domino effect in an immersive scenario, the animation would move up down the line from monitor to monitor.
Each one of these pieces has its own monitor.
Yes, so it's like a huge, kind of like a performance in a way.
Yeah.
And if I knew how to use a computer, it might be a little bit easier.
Right.
But that's not my.
So you don't have the video yet with the animation all coming together.
The animations, there's a preliminary animation that's been made for the painting of the boy waving.
Okay.
But the rest of the pieces need their animation to go along with them. I have an amazingly talented friend who is a teammate of mine from art school who does that stuff, and yeah, he's gonna be my guy to do that. And then I have another guy who's conducting the interviews, and he's based in Florida, really good guy as well. And I've got a really strong support system behind me. Now it's just getting all those pieces in place. So
how much money does it need?
a bit.
Do you want to put $1 to it?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if anybody wants to help, what do they need to do?
Well, it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation, because I have to secure dates with spaces first.
Okay.
Because a lot of the cost associated with these sorts of things, it includes the shipping, the insurance,
Sure.
those types of things.
Sure.
And then the animation, audio stuff is a completely separate component. So for that, if you're, for the people that don't know about that stuff or how it could potentially work, somebody like a corporate type of sponsor can give the funds to said venue to then distribute for completion of the project. So, this is more of like a corporate collaborative thing.
So if people want to reach out, if a corporate rep wants to reach out, or if people want to loop their employer in because they work for somebody big and do something like that, looking at you, everybody, for General Dynamics and other people like that, what do they do? How do they reach you?
They can, any one of the social media platforms. I'm on all of them. My parents made my life a little bit difficult with that because it's Mitchel with one L and it's Coffman, Coffman. I've definitely had some good feedback on LinkedIn because the military community is enormous on there. And I've had, like I said, I've had friends who have begun, helping seek these things out for me. Which you can never do anything like this by yourself. I am not a foolish person to think that I could. But yeah, started in 2016 and here we are. So
It's a long time coming.
Yeah.
What else do people need to do? Reach out to you, follow you on socials. Website?
I do have a website. It needs some updating, but yeah, it's just mitchelcoffman.com. Any of the social media, Instagram. During the pandemic, I got TikTok.
Oh, really?
Trying to get
Supporting
savvy.
CCP?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Got you. Exactly how long you've been working for Beijing? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so like Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, any of those things. I'm there on all of them.
All right, dude. This has been a fucking orgy of cool shit. I mean, there's so much. Like, it's incredibly. First off, it's fucking awesome to do this podcast and have visual support around here. I feel like I'm fucking spoiled right now. But to sit here, it's like taking a little dive into your brain.
That's the first time I've seen all the pieces together as well.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild. Because, I mean, you get a sense just sitting in this room and being surrounded by it of like what the exhibit could look like.
Yeah.
And when it's fully mounted. I mean, that's a hell of a thing. Dude, thanks for doing this.
No, thank you for having me. Like, this is such a great opportunity. I'm so appreciative of it.
Listen, for us as well. And we'll keep in touch. And I can't wait to see how things unspool.
Hell yeah, they will.